Hello and welcome everyone to Newspaper Analysis Townhall. Today, July 5th, we are going to discuss the 5 topics. First one is India has decided to impose retaliatory tariffs on US and it has informed WTO regarding this. So we will see what WTO can do in this and why India has decided to impose such tariffs. Second, GST Cess issues. On 8 years of completion of GST, we will see various issues related to the Cess, the compensatory Cess provisions under the GST. Third, 𝐼𝐸 has recently talked about transparency in the Collegium System. So we will see how Collegium System evolved and what are its various limitations. Next is Prime Minister has visited Trinidad, where he has met the 𝐼𝐸𝐸 community. Next, Nipah virus, which recently the case has been observed in Kerala. Okay, so let's start. Yes, India has told WTO that it may levy retaliatory tariff worth $724 million on US imports. So how the issue started? Issue started with 26th March when US decided to impose 25% ad valorem retaliatory tariff on India on certain items related to automobiles or certain parts of automobiles. Ad valorem meaning which is imposed on the value of the good. See, with imposition of this tax, it was supposed to be impacting around $2895 million of India's export to US, and that corresponding tax would be 723.75 million. So corresponding to this figure only, India has decided to impose 724 million tax on US imports. Now the major thing now we would like to see is what WTO can do in this World Trade Organization, what role it can play. Does it have any power to ask US to stop the retaliatory tariffs? Let's see what WTO can do and what WTO is. WTO was formed under Uruguay round negotiation of GATT. What is this? This is General Agreement on Trade and Tariff. See, this was the agreement, and on such agreements, the various rounds of negotiations happened. In the Uruguay round in 1994, WTO was formed. It came into being in 1995. That agreement was called Marrakesh. So, what was earlier GATT now become WTO. There is a major difference between the two. GATT used to look after only trade in goods, but WTO looks after trade in goods, services, even intellectual property rights, designs, etc. So it is more expensive. WTO basically regulates the rules for the global trade. It has various mechanisms to regulate the rules. Its headquarters is in Geneva, and 166 countries are the members. How negotiations happen in WTO? There are various bodies in the WTO for the negotiation and the dispute settlement. First is Ministerial Conference, where various decisions are made. Now, as India has raised, for example, an issue with WTO against US, so it will go to Dispute Settlement Body, DSP. It will decide and it will pass a judgment. Then this judgment can be challenged in an appellate body. Now the issue comes here. There are 7 judges in the body whose appointment has not been done since 2019, blocked by US. So if there are no judges, no judgment can be passed. So basically you can say WTO has become dysfunctional. So WTO basically cannot do much. If India has gone to WTO against US, it is of not much use. It just shows some, symbolic visit, showing that, okay, yes, we also can impose tariffs on your imports. There are various agreements of WTO, TRIPS, TRIPS if trade-related investment measures, and TRIPS is related to intellectual property rights. So as we see, let's see how the trade deal will happen, which can be signed any moment now, because the last date is 9th of July. So a mini trade deal is expected to be signed between India and US very soon. So we'll see what are the various sectors which got concession. The issue is basically stuck on GM crops. We discussed in like 2-3 days back only. GM crops and dairy products, which US wants to export in India. Okay, let's move on to the next issue. Yes, this is very important for prelims as well as mains point of view. Seize the cess. Before moving on to what is cess, what are the various issues, let's set the context of the article. The article says that in June 2025, the GST collection was around 1.85 lakh crore, which is lowest in 4 months, which is an increase of 6.2% from the last June. It is an increase, but it is the slowest increase in 4 years. So what is being said is, if GST collection has fallen, and GST is a destination-based tax. Destination-based tax meaning, if a pen is produced in Gujarat, it is not taxed there. It is being sold in Haryana. Then I purchase it here in Haryana. So the tax will be collected in Haryana. So it is a destination-based tax, meaning consumption. Where the consumption of the good is happening, tax will be imposed there only. So it is showing if consumption is falling, it means there is slowdown in the economy. This is what the GST collection shows, because it is consumption-based tax, and if the tax collection is falling, meaning the consumption is falling. So in this article, the various issues which has been raised are, first is there are multiple tax rates and higher tax rates. Multiple tax slabs are there. Second is, it has discussed how petrol and diesel are outside the purview of GST, why they have not been included. Third is compensation cess. We will discuss this. See, tax rates. Now recently only the government GST council had decided that it will look to merge the 12 and 18% slab, or it will shift the goods from 12% slab to either 5% or to 18%. The essential goods will be transferred to the 5%, non-essential goods will be transferred to the 18% slab. This is to rationalize the tax rates and tax slabs. Now the second issue is inclusion of petrol and diesel in GST. See, how taxes are applied on petrol and diesel. There is a raw price of petrol after processing. Then center imposes excise duty. Then state impose its own tax. So the center is separate, state is separate, and the collection from here goes to states and collection from here goes to center. And it is a major source of revenue for the states. So states are very reluctant for the inclusion of petrol and diesel in GST. Their fear is that their share in the revenue will fall. But this cannot be the reason, because GST is a one nation, one tax. So mechanisms have to be set up where the state's revenue is not being lost and rationalization of taxes on petrol and diesel can happen. Third is compensation cess. First of all, what is cess? Cess is a tax on tax. For example, if I am purchasing a good of rupees 1,000 tax on this is 10%, which is 100 rupees. Okay, if I impose a 10% cess on this, meaning 10% on 100 rupees, not 1000, which will be 10 rupees. So the total tax will be 110. So this is the first feature. Second feature is it is used for the purpose it is imposed. For example, if 10% cess is, say for example, education cess, then it will be used for the education purpose only, right? And one major feature of this is cess is not shared with states. It is not part of the divisible pool. That is the major contention. This is what various states have been going to the Finance Commission and asking to make cess part of divisible pool. What is divisible pool? According to Finance Commission, say for example, there is 100 rupees collection of taxes by the center. So 41% is to be shared with the states. Why? Because states also need taxes for the functioning of the government and also for the welfare purposes. And the issue is, out of these 100 rupees, earlier what used to happen is around 2015-16, the share of cess and surcharge, we'll discuss surcharge also, was only 10.4%. But by 22-23 it has increased to almost 23%. This is the major bone of contention, that the government is routing through the channels of cess and surcharge to not make it part of the divisible pool and which is not shared with the states. This is the major issue. What is surcharge? Surcharge is also tax on tax, but it is applied generally. It does not have any specific purpose. For example, if there are people earning more than, say for example, 1 crore rupees, then a surcharge of 5% can be imposed, 10% can be imposed on those people. This cess and surcharge do not make part of the divisible pool, and it is clearly mentioned under Article 270 and 271 through 80th Amendment to the Constitution. So these are not shared. Now the second issue which comes here, is GST compensation cess. One issue we saw, and the second issue is GST compensation cess. As per the provisions of GST, a compensation cess is imposed over and above the slab of 28%. And out of this cess, it is being shared with the states, paid to the states for any loss or fall in their revenue. When GST started from 2017, there was a fear among states that their revenue may fall. Now, to do away with the fear, center come up with GST compensation cess. If there is any shortfall in the revenue of the state government, if there is any revenue shortfall for the states, then they are paid through this GST compensation cess. It was supposed to be for 5 years only, but extended for an indefinite by 2026. It has been extended to 2026 because of the COVID. During that period, there was fall in GST collection. So now after 2026, it should be done away with. Why? Because taxes does not mean that they are concerned with only the central government or the state government. People are also involved. So people are being taxed at such a high rate. This is what this article is being discussing about. Okay. So we saw these three issues: cess and surcharge, compensation cess, inclusion of petrol and diesel in GST, and tax rates and tax slabs. Let's move on to the next topic. Yes, 𝐻𝐸𝐸 has recently talked about complete transparency in the Collegium system for appointment. See, in India, how Supreme Court and High Court judges are appointed? Who appoints them? Judges only are appointing them. Yes, judges appointing judges. Let's see how this collegium system evolved and what is this collegium system. It all start. Let's first see the constitutional provisions regarding this. So for the constitutional provisions under Article 124 and 217, this is for the Supreme Court, this is for the High Court. If a question comes on constitutional provisions related to appointment of judges, what students usually do, they write about Article 124, but they forget about the articles related to the High Court. So do remember both of them. According to this, President will appoint the Supreme Court judges. President, but after in consultation with the CJI. Now the entire contention is on this word consultation. What does this consultation mean? Consultation can mean, okay, I'll consult with CJI. Whatever he says, it has to be agreed on. That is, it is mandatory to accept the CJI recommendation. Or it can also mean, okay, I'll discuss with CJI. Whatever CJI says, let it be. I'll decide on my own. So to clear what this consultation means, Collegium System evolved how? First judge's case, SP Gupta v. Union of India 1981. This issue was raised where Supreme Court said consultation means only consultation, no concurrence. No concurrence, meaning if a Supreme Court CJI says, okay, go with the appointment, then it is up to the President to accept it or not. It is just to consult. It is not mandatory. It is not concurrent for the President. Now, second case where the Supreme Court's Advocate on Record Association filed was the Union of India 1993. Here, Supreme Court said consultation means concurrence. Yes, it is mandatory, it is obligatory on part of the government to accept the recommendations of the CJI. But here they say it is not only CJI, but CJI plus 2 senior most judges of the Supreme Court. Whatever the Collegium says, it has to be accepted. Now to clarify, the Collegium, this is the origin of Collegium. Second judge's case 1993. Now to clarify this, under Article 143, government asked the Supreme Court to clarify what is this. Supreme Court said, this means whatever the Collegium says, it has to be accepted by the President and the government, and they expanded the Collegium. Collegium was expanded in this. It is CJI plus 4 senior most judges of Supreme Court. Similar, there is Collegium for the High Court also, where CJI plus 2 Supreme Court judges and CJ of High Court, etc. are there. So this is how the Collegium system evolved. So basically, according to this, judges are appointing judges in India. Why it is important? Why Judiciary is doing this? Even to counter this, government came up with NJAC, National Judicial Appointment Commission, where the members of the government, the law minister was also there, but it was struck down by the judiciary, saying it goes against the independence of judiciary. These provisions, these judges' cases are made to maintain the independence of judiciary, which is the basic structure of constitution, which is very important to maintain an independent judiciary. But what are the various issues with this? Various issues with the Collegium system. First of all, transparency. The process which is followed by the judiciary, the Collegium, is not made public. What discussions, what consultations, what criteria have been taken into consideration, nothing is shared. There are issues of transparency. Then nepotism. You'll be shocked to know almost 33% judges of the High Court. Who are these judges? They are some relatives of the people in the higher judiciary. This is called as uncle judge syndrome. Uncle is judge, तो हम भी judge. Okay, then representation of various sections of the country, for example, SC, ST, OBC, women, for example. 2024, only 9.3% of the judges in Supreme Court were women. So I think it is up to the judiciary to practice what they preach. So what is to be done? For this, Law Commission has recommended that judiciary and the executive means the government, they both should have a say in the appointment of the judges. So a mechanism has to be evolved, a mechanism has to be reached where there is participation of judiciary as well as executive in the appointment of judges to maintain the transparency and accountability of the judiciary. So this is the issue about Collegium system. Okay, so let's move on to the next topic. Okay, now two small topics. First is Prime Minister has gone to Trinidad and Tobago, as we all know, on his 10-day tour, visiting to 5 countries and also attending the BRICS summit. PM Modi has hailed about 35 million diaspora of India. Diaspora meaning people of India who are staying outside. It is 35 million, 3.5 crore people. In Trinidad and Tobago, Prime Minister has talked about the cultural links between 𝐼𝐸𝐻 community. He has called them ambassadors of India, Rashtradoot. So here we will see who are 𝐼𝐸𝐻s. Okay, 𝐼𝐸𝐻 communities are basically the former indentured laborers taken from India during colonial period. British have taken various laborers from India to work in Southern Africa, Pacific Island, Fiji, and Caribbeans. Those people stayed there. Now their children, now their next children, next to next children, they are staying there, but they have Indian roots. They have various links from the states of UP, Bihar, even Bhojpuri language. Almost 40% of the population in Trinidad and Tobago is of Indian origin. Okay, now there is mention of Pravasi Bharatiya Divas also in the article. Pravasi Bharatiya Divas, which India observes to commemorate the contribution of the Indian diaspora in India's development across the world. It is observed biennially on 9th of Jan. Why 9th of Jan? Is there any significance of the date? Yes, on this date, Gandhiji came back to India after his South African stay. It was established in 2003 by Prime Minister 𝐼𝐸𝐻 𝐕𝐢𝐝. Such statements can come in exam any day. Also, it is talking about that Trinidad Tobago has accepted UPI system of India and they will be given the OCI cards. What is OCI card? Overseas Citizens of India. Basically, they get many benefits like multiple coming and going to India, multi-purpose visit, visa free. But it should not be confused with the dual citizenship. It is not citizenship. So they cannot contest election. They cannot hold constitutional posts, or what are the limitations on non-citizens they are imposed on them. Just their movements will be free. Okay. So the next is Nipah virus. Yes, Nipah virus again resurfaces in Kerala. A girl child of 18 years has died to acute encephalitis syndrome. See, what is Nipah virus? Nipah is we'll see about Nipah virus only from exam point of view, only this much is important. Nipah is a zoonotic disease. What is the meaning of zoonotic disease? That it is transmitted from animals to human. It was first observed in Malaysia in pig farmers in 1998. So it basically transmitted from animals to humans. Natural host, who is natural host of this? Fruit bats. For example, there is a fruit. Now the fruit bat sit on it and bite it. Now this fruit is consumed by human. So Nipah virus can be transmitted if this fruit bat is infected with Nipah virus. As of now, there is no vaccine and there is no full-fledged treatment for the Nipah virus. So these are the various issues and topics we discussed today. So it is done for today. I hope you guys are studying. So let's meet on Monday now. Okay, thank you.